was in the hospital for months and months, and so was I, and there was only so many hospitals where you could go for major cosmetic surgery. Jump back to the nuns. The nuns were the worst about always pushing. The nuns who were nurses. One nun would tell me about some patient on a different floor who was funny and charming. He was a lawyer and could do magic tricks with just his hands or a paper napkin. This day, this nurse was a kind of nun who wore a white nursing version of a regular nun uniform, and she told this lawyer all about me. This was Sister Catherine. She told him I was funny and bright, and she said how sweet it would be if the two of us could meet and fall madly in love. Those were her words. Halfway down the bridge of her nose, she'd look at me through wire-framed glasses, their lenses long and squared the way a microscope slide looks. Little broken veins kept the end of her nose red. Rosacea, she called this. It would be easier to see her living in a gingerbread house than a convent. Married to Santa Claus instead of God. The starched apron she wore over her habit was so glaring white that when I first arrived fresh from my big car accident, I remembered how all the stains from my blood looked black. They gave me a pen and paper so I could communicate. They wrapped my head in dressings, yards of tight gauze. Holding wads of cotton in place. Metal butterfly sutures gripping all over so I wouldn't unravel. They fingered on a thick layer of antibiotic gel, claustrophobic and toxic under the wads of cotton. My hair they pulled back, forgotten and hot under the gauze where I couldn't get at it. The invisible woman. When Sister Catherine mentioned this other patient, I wondered if maybe I'd seen him around. Her lawyer, the cute, funny magician. I didn't say he was cute, she said. Sister Catherine said, he's still a little shy. On the pad of paper I wrote, still. Since his little mishap, she said, and smiled with her eyebrows arched and all her chins tucked down against her neck. He wasn't wearing a seatbelt. She said his car rolled right over the top of him. She said that's why he'd be so perfect for you. Early on, while I was still sedated, somebody had taken the mirror out of my bathroom. The nurses seemed to steer me away from the polished anything, the way that they kept the suicides away from knives, the drunks away from the drinks. The closest I had to a mirror was the television, and it only showed how I used to look. If I asked to see the police photos from the accident, the day nurse would tell me no. They kept the photos in a file at the nursing station, and it seemed anybody could ask to see them except me. This nurse, she'd say, the doctor thinks you've suffered enough for the time being. The same day nurse tried to fix me up with an accountant whose hair and ears were burned off in a propane blender. She introduced me to a graduate student who'd lost his throat and sinuses to a touch of cancer, a window washer after his 3-story tumble headfirst onto concrete. Those were all her words: blunder, touch, tumble, the lawyer's mishap, the big accident. Sister Catherine would be there to check my vital signs every 6 hours. remember. It was my cotton crepe sundress from Esprit. I remember that when I ordered this dress from the catalog, I almost ordered two. They're so comfortable, loose with the breeze, trying to get inside the armholes and lift the hem up around your waist. Then you'd sweat if there wasn't a breeze and the cotton crepe stuck on you, like 11 herbs and spices. Only on you the dress was almost transparent. You'd walk onto a patio. It was the great feeling, a million spotlights picking you out of the crowd, or walk into a restaurant when outside it was 90 degrees and everyone would turn and look at you as if you had been awarded some major, distinguished award for major lifetime achievement. That's how I felt. I can remember this kind of attention. It always felt 90 degrees out. And I remember my underwear. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, God. But I was wearing just this little patch up front with an elastic string waist and just one string running down the crack and back around to the bottom of the patch on front. Flesh tone. That one string, the one down the crack, butt floss, is what everybody calls that string. I wore the patch underwear because of when the cotton crepe sundress goes almost transparent. You just don't plan on ending up in the emergency room with your dress cut off and detectives taking your picture propped up on a gurney with a morphine drip in one arm and a Franciscan nun screaming in one ear, take your pictures now, she's still losing blood." No, really, it was funnier than it sounds. It got funny when there I was sprawled on the gurney, this anatomically correct rag doll with nothing but this little patch on, and my face was the way it is now. The police, they had the nun hold this sheet up over my breasts. It's so they could take pictures of my face, but the detectives are so embarrassed for me being sprawled there topless. Jump to when they refused to show me the pictures. One of the detectives says that if a bullet had been 2 inches higher, I'd be dead. I couldn't see their point 2 inches lower, and I'd be deep fried in a spicy cotton crepe sundress, trying to get the insurance guy to waive the deductible and replace my car window. Then I'd be by a swimming pool, wearing sunblock and telling a couple cute guys I know how I was driving on the freeway. And the stingray went a rock or I don't know what, but my driver's side window just burst, and the cute guys would say, "Whoa." Jump to another detective, the one who'd searched my car for the slug and bone fragments, that stuff the detectives say, saw how I'd been driving with the window half open. A car window. This guy tells me over the 8x10 glossies of me wearing the white sheet, a car window should always be all the way open or all the way shut. He couldn't remember how many motorists he had seen decapitated by windows in car accidents. How could I not laugh? That was his word, motorists. The way my mouth was, the only sound left I could do was laugh. I couldn't not laugh. Jumped after there were pictures, when people stopped looking at me. My boyfriend, Manus, came in the evening after the emergency room, after I'd been wheeled off on my gurney to surgery, after the bleeding had stopped and I was in a private room. Then Manus showed up, Manus Kelly, who was my fiancé until he saw what was left. Manus sat looking at the black and white glossies of my new face, shuffling and reshuffling them, turning them upside down and right side up in the way you would one of those mystery pictures where 1 minute you have a beautiful woman, but then you look again and you have a hag. Manus says, "Oh God," then says, "Oh, sweet, sweet Jesus," then says, "Christ." The first date I ever had with Manus, I was still living with my folks. Manus showed me a badge in his wallet. At home, he had a gun. He was a police detective and he was really successful in Vice. This was a May and December thing. Manus was 25 and I was 18, but we went out. This is the world we live in. We went sailing one time and he wore a Speedo, and any smart woman should know that means bisexual at least. My best friend, Evie Condrell, she's a model. Evie says that beautiful people should never date each other. Together they just don't generate enough attention. Evie says there's a whole shift in the beauty standard when they're together. You can feel this, Evie says. When both of you are beautiful, neither of you are beautiful. Together as a couple, you're less than the sum of your parts. Nobody really gets noticed, not anymore. Still, there I was one time, taping the infomercial, one of those long info commercials you think would end at any moment because after all of this, it's just a commercial. travels from state to state, cutting the ears and tails off thousands of Doberman puppies or boxers or bull terriers. On my pad, I read with my pencil, "Your point being," and I wave this in his direction. "The point is, whoever cuts your ears off is the one you'll hate for the rest of your life." He says, "You don't want your regular veterinarian to do the job, so you pay a stranger." Still looking at picture after picture, Manna says, "That's the reason I can't show you these." Somewhere outside the hospital, in a motel room full of bloody towels with his toolbox of knives and needles, or driving down the highway to his next victim, or kneeling over a dog, drugged and cut up in a dirty bathtub, is the man a million dogs must hate. Sitting next to my bed, Manna says, "You just need to archive your cover girl dreams." The fashion photographer inside my head yells, "Give me pity, Flash. Give me another chance, Flash." That's what I did before the accident. Call me a big liar, but before the accident, I told people I was a college student. If you tell folks you're a model, they shut down. Your being a model will mean they're networking with some lower life form. They start using baby talk, they dumb down. But if you tell folks you're a college student, folks are more impressed. You could be a student in anything and not have to know anything. Just say toxicology or marine biokinesis, and the person you're talking to will change the subject to himself. If this doesn't work, mention the neural synapses of embryonic pigeons. It used to be I was a real college student. I have about 1,600 credits towards my undergraduate degree in personal fitness training. What I hear from my parents is that I should be a doctor by now. Sorry, Mom, and sorry, God. There was a time when Evie and me went out to dance clubs and bars, and men would wait outside the ladies' store to watch us. Guys would say we were casting a television commercial. The guy would give me a business card and ask what agency I was with. There was a time when my mom came to visit. My mom smokes, and the first afternoon I came home from a shoot, she held out a matchbook and said, "What's the meaning of this?" She said, "Please tell me you're not a big slut, as much as your poor dead brother is." In the matchbook was a guy's name I didn't know and a telephone number. "This isn't the only one I found," my mom said. "What are you running here?" "I don't smoke." I tell her that. The matchbooks pile up because I'm too polite not to take them, and I'm too frugal to just throw them away. That's why it takes a whole kitchen drawer to hold them. All those men I can't remember and their telephone numbers. So we're gonna stop here. I'm gonna continue reading this in another video, and I'm super excited to get through this book with you. Again, it's one of my favorite authors and one of my favorite books. So if you enjoyed this, let me know. If there's anything else you think I should read, please let me know in the comments. I'm always reading